Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As you guys can probably tell by the title or thumbnail, the long-awaited Buzzfeed article on Trisha Paytas has finally been released. I'm here to summarize it for you. Before we get into that, make sure that you guys give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Also, follow us on Twitter for more tea, and you can also DM us any tea on there as well. So, just 3 months ago, in May of 2021, BuzzFeed News reporter Scotchy Cole visited Trisha Paytas at her home for an interview. Obviously, at the time, Trisha was indifferent towards the BuzzFeed reporter Scotchy, but as we all know, a lot can happen in a few months. But throw Trisha Paytas in the mix, and more than a lot can happen in a few months. Basically, Trisha hates Scotchy now, the person she allowed into her home and did an interview with, but let me give you a quick rundown on why Trisha is not a fan of Scotchy anymore. Shortly after interviewing with Scotchy, Trisha contacted her requesting that anything that she said during her talk about Gabby Hanna please be redacted and not written about. Scotchy said, okay, that's it, that's the rundown. I said it was gonna be quick, okay? If you're confused or want to know more, I'll link some videos that I've done in the past talking about everything that happened leading up to now. But on August 6th, Trisha tweeted, dude, Scotchy, I asked you to leave me alone privately and publicly. You are harassing me at this point. Stop emailing Moses, my mom, and all other relatives. She sent another email this morning. This is beyond unprofessional. You're being a creep. You're triggering as fuck. Stop. And just 3 days later, the article was released. The article that Scotchy wrote based on her interview with Trisha back in May. I find it kind of strange how closely this tweet from Trisha lined up with the release of the article. Like, maybe Scotchy was reaching out in hopes to show Trish the article before it came out, or maybe to interview her one more time to clear any drama or bad blood in the air, or was Scotchy just trying to get more dirt? Maybe from Trisha by continuously trying to contact her. I mean, she is a journalist and it's her job to reach out and ask questions, so I really can't blame her. But I do wonder what her intentions were when emailing Trisha just days before releasing her article. So now let's actually get to the article. Scotchy starts off by describing that we've all seen plenty of times on Trisha's YouTube channel her expensive lifestyle, the luxury cars, designer bags, gigantic house, blah blah blah. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm so involved with the internet world, but none of this was interesting or shocking for me to read. Like, I'm so sick of hearing about how rich YouTubers are in terms of the materialistic items they have.
I want to get a Balenciaga or maybe 2 Balenciaga bags.
But as I kept reading, I became more interested. Trisha was asked by Scotchy about her financial situation and gave some insight on just how much she makes per month currently and how much she has made in the past. See, now this is the type of stuff that I want to know about. Actual dollar amounts that people like Trisha Paytas are bringing in by doing, well, whatever Trisha Paytas is doing. During this interview, Trisha claims at the height of her YouTube career, she made around $250,000 in a month. Excuse me, $250,000? Guys, that is so much money. Honestly, it makes a little more sense to me now seeing all the stupid purchases Trisha has made and continues to make. Like, if you make that much money in a month, eventually money has to lose its value in a way, right? Obviously, I'm just imagining because y'all know I've never even been in the same vicinity of $250,000. But if you're constantly having money coming your way for posting mediocre, zero-effort content, then yeah, it makes sense to see how she spends it. But according to this article, Trisha's YouTube income fluctuates, and in 2019, Trisha made around $6,000 a month. That's obviously kind of more than the average person makes in a month, but in Trisha's world, that's a huge jump. Moving on from YouTube money, Scotchy then asked Trisha about other forms of income. This leads to the topic of Trisha's OnlyFans. Let's hear what Trisha says to Scotchy during their interview, straight from the Buzzfeed article. Their sister, Callie Metz, helps run their extremely successful OnlyFans account, where for just under $5 a month, you can view a plethora of Paytas' adult content. My sister does my OnlyFans for me in exchange for like a shout out to her OnlyFans, Paytas said. And even though, according to Paytas, they're no longer making any content for the site and are simply repurposing old content for a fee, they're still making a lot from it every month. Maybe like $150,000, Paytas said. Alright, so there's a couple of things here that I kind of want to talk about. First of all, someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but does Trisha not pay her sister? Like, pay her actual money? Because in the article she says that her sister runs her OnlyFans account in exchange for promo. If that's the case, then Callie is literally doing twice the work by operating and posting on Trisha's OnlyFans account while also producing content on her own page. And in return for the work that she does, she gets a shout out. But obviously not all of Trisha's followers will click over to Callie's page and subscribe. So in theory, Trisha is still making more on her OnlyFans account than Callie would be making on hers, and Trisha is losing no money and putting no work towards the page. And this is her sister too. Like, it's already a shady business move to have someone hired to do work for you in exchange for shoutouts instead of money, but to do that to your own sister? I don't know, maybe I'm reading too far into it. Who's to say Trisha doesn't give her sister money behind the scenes, but I will say Callie was so upset about that 5% extra that Ethan took from the frenemies money.
He takes that 5%.
You'd think she'd be a little bit more concerned about working for her own sister for practically free. And it's obvious Trisha can afford to pay her sister. She says that from just OnlyFans, that brings in another $150,000 a month. So add that to her YouTube revenue, that's $400,000 a month. Sure, a lot of that money goes towards funding Trisha's excessive luxurious lifestyle, but like, pay your sister, dude. Another thing we learned in this article is how much Trisha and Moses pay on their mortgage for the new house that they just bought, and the grand total is $13,000 per month, which they each pay half of. Hopefully they don't end up missing payments like the Ace family. I have a feeling this will happen to a lot of YouTubers in the future, sadly. While they're at the peak of their fame and wealth, they make these huge long-term investments that they will not end up being able to afford in the future. Of course, I don't wish bankruptcy or losing a house on anyone. I guess it's just the pessimist in me wondering how much longer and how many more influencers are going to move into another mansion. But obviously, from what Trisha has shared about her abundance of income flowing towards her monthly, I'm sure she'll be just fine. The article goes on to talk about Trisha and her controversies with other YouTubers in the past. It says, Paytas has suffered and profited from plenty of controversies, including major scraps with some of the most influential and legitimately powerful YouTubers. They fought with Nash, Dobrik, who they allege hid in their hotel room to scare Paytas while they were naked, Jeffree Star, I think he's just a mean girl, he just has a bad personality according to Trisha, Shane Dawson, she says I'll never talk to him again, and Gabby Hanna. Paytas declined to comment on anything having to do with her. The result is that Paytas now tends to avoid industry events and fellow creators. I'm not a person that likes to be around peers, they said, adding that they're still friendly with old school YouTubers Colleen Ballinger and Joey Graceffa. So here's the first time that our bestie Gabby Hanna is mentioned in the article. And as you can see, although Scotchy and Trisha allegedly did talk about Gabby during their time together, Scotchy respected Trisha's request to not include any of what was said about Gabby in the article. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that anything Trisha said during her interview with Scotchy could have been used in the article, regardless of if Trisha requested it to be redacted. Like, what she said that day was on the record and she was aware of it, and then after the fact asked that none of it be included. Scotchy could have easily included more on Gabby Hanna but chose not to. I would assume to try and avoid any more heat from Trisha. In a recent video uploaded on Trisha's channel, she actually talks about Scotchy and how she asked Trisha about her infertility, and Trisha goes off. Trisha calls Scotchy a bitch and a disgusting person and deems her the dirtiest gossip troll on the internet. Honestly, that's an honor to receive that title from Trisha Paytas herself. I think I'd be brought to tears if she ever said that to me. Tears of joy. Okay, anyway, back to the article. Scotchy writes about Trish and her relationship with Moses, saying, when we spoke, Paytas did seem healthier and happier. There have been no outward displays of stress in their relationship with Hackman, a marked departure from their other very public, chaotic former relationships. Hackman met Paytas through his sister, Ela, and brother-in-law, Ethan Klein. They're now planning 3 weddings, one in the Four Seasons in LA, another in Israel in January, and then a third, more for pictures, in Maui. It's only one time you get married, so it's like, let's just go full out, they said, or 3 times. Okay, let's be honest. Whether to love or hate Trisha, you gotta admit, you're at least a little excited to see all these wedding pics when the time comes, right? Or is that just me? And also, will Ethan be there after all of the frenemies drama? Like, she's she's getting married to his brother-in-law. It just all seems like such a complicated situation, but hopefully the family is working it out behind the scenes. After touching on Moses, not touching on Moses, like that sounds so bad. After Scotchy finished talking about Moses, she goes on to ask Trisha about her relationship with her mom, Lena Paytas, and this is when we learned that Trisha at one point was paying her mom's rent that costs $3,000 a month, and at the time Trisha was making $800,000 a month, so this was like pocket change for her. But still, like a really nice gesture to pay your mom's rent since she couldn't work due to having cancer and going through the process of healing from that. Scotchy writes in her article, Paytas and their mother are close, and Lena has been the most present force in their life on and offline. Paytas told me that as a single mom, Lena works 4 jobs to keep the family afloat. My mom, until I was like 24, was giving me money. My mom was always bartending and just gave me all the money she had, Paytas said. Then when she couldn't work because of cancer and neuropathy, that's when I was like, oh, just let me pay the rent. It was like $3,000 and I was making $800,000 a month. According to Lena, Paytas' level of fame and wealth barely registered with her until recently when Paytas bought her a 2,000 square foot home in a gated community nearby. This was pretty much the last thing we hear about the actual interview between Scotchy and Trisha. The rest of the article is mainly Scotchy talking about Trish and her downfall. She recaps the ending of the Frenemies podcast and also states that Ethan declined multiple requests to comment. Scotchy seems like that one annoying person in school, you know, like the one who always wanted to talk to you or sit with you, but you just really didn't want to talk to them. Like, I don't know. I get it. She's a journalist. It's her job to poke and pry at people for comments and answers, but also like, girl, Klein did not respond to multiple requests for comment. Don't expose yourself like that. And when reading this article, I was kind of shocked to see how professional Scotchy remained when writing it, even after everything that Trisha said to her, until I reached this point in the article. Scotchy begins to address the beginning of a personal feud between her and Trisha and says, around the same time as their breakup with Klein, I wrote a profile of one of Paytas' nemesis, Gabby Hanna. Hanna and Paytas have been in a fight for years, stemming from a rumor that Paytas believed Hanna started. Hanna came up in the course of our conversation, but Paytas asked that I keep those comments off the record in both this profile and the one that I wrote on Gabby. I did. Ultimately, Paytas didn't even want their name to be mentioned anywhere near Hanna's, an impossible request. A lot of Hanna's online fame is, at this point, tied up with her fights with Paytas. Paytas tweeted cropped portions of her emails that made it seem like I had agreed to keep them entirely out of the article, which I had not. For weeks, Paytas' most staunch supporters have been sending me doxing threats, suggestions I kill myself, demands that I be fired, racist jabs about my name and appearance, and suggestions that I could be sued for actually, I'm not even sure what. My Instagram DMs, Twitter replies, and email inboxes are still filled with them. Despite Paytas' fury over being associated with Hanna in any capacity, they did recently go on Tana Mongeau's podcast, Cancelled, and once again publicly discussed Hanna and their ongoing feud. Of course, I say this is a personal feud, but in reality, I don't think anyone can really be personal when it comes to Trisha Paytas. She has a problem with you, the whole world, or at least the entire internet, is going to hear about it, which is what happened in this instance. We all saw the tweets from Trisha when the article Scotchy wrote about Gabby Hanna came out, and this is a tricky situation because while Scotchy is a news reporter and this is supposed to be her job, the situation became incredibly personal. It's like, if she didn't address the feud that Trisha started, it would be weird, but it also comes across as kind of unprofessional that she wrote about it in this article, in my opinion. But also, like, if someone talked about me in such a hateful way that Trisha did, I would want to defend myself as well, and I guess this is Scotchy's biggest platform. Scotchy then addresses the most recent comment Trisha made in her video. Remember the one that I mentioned earlier where Trisha addressed Scotchy sending her an email asking about her infertility? Here's what Scotchy has to say about that. She said, last week I contacted Paytas for final comment and fact checking as part of the process of running a profile like this. They responded, I have zero respect for you as a journalist after I asked you to omit me from anything Gabby related. Please kindly do not contact me again. I sent one more email to them with detailed fact-checking questions. I've said this already, but I'm going to say it again. I get it. Scotchy is just doing her job. She's a reporter and reporters' pride. But also, Trisha did respond already, asking her to kindly not contact her again, and Scotchy sends another email with her, in her words, a detailed fact-checking question. It's like, come on, why throw fuel to the fire? And then that is when Trisha made her Enemies number 3 video where she talks about Scotchy and calls her some intense yet creative insulting names. Since the article has been released, Trisha's response has been pretty tame, actually. She tweeted, "The title of the Buzzfeed article is 'Don't Piss Off Trisha Paytas.' Fitting. I still think Buzzfeed is trash, but the lovely independent photographer who took the photos was so wonderful, so I'm posting because I look hot in them." She's not wrong. The pictures are pretty fire. I do think it's kind of shitty though that she didn't take the time to credit the photographer by name when it's very clearly stated in the article under each picture, but hey, I guess promo from Trish only comes when you run and operate her OnlyFans account for free, right? In my opinion, Scotchy needed to do a better job at separating her personal life and feelings with her work. Trisha obviously doesn't have to do that, but that's because her job is to literally share her personal life with the internet. Scotchy's job is to interview and to report. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that Scotchy has every right to be personally upset by what Trisha has said about her, but does she have the right to include those personal feelings in an article that she was paid to write? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below. Personally, I'm kind of torn when it comes to like whose side I'm on in the situation. Can I just be on neither? They both kind of suck in their individual special ways, to be honest. Anyways, that is the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I post new videos every single day. Alright, bye-bye.